we're live. So welcome everybody. I want to thank everybody at the top for taking the time to join me in this presentation for the SL2100. I am Mike Regan. I'm the Midwest Account Manager for the product. I see a lot of familiar names on the attendee list, so great, welcome. And I also see some names I'm not as familiar with, so welcome to you all as well. So for the next 75 minutes or so, we're going to talk about the newest addition to our SL product line, the SL2100. And my objective in all this is to introduce you to the system, and primarily what we're going to do is show you the differences between SL2100 and SL1100. All right, because that's they're both the 2100 is running on the same platform, 1100, but we've made some significant changes to it for the better. Right? That's what we're gonna point out to you, and what we're gonna show you this morning. And you will see, hopefully by the end of this presentation, you will see that how not only the 2100 appeals both to the traditional telephony company or customers, the traditional telephony customers, but it will also have an appeal to your voice over IP customers, or your customers that are more IT centric, and I'll point that out as we go through the presentation. And the SL2100 is just a continuation of the technology and the innovative technologies that we've been doing for the last 118 years here at NEC. Okay. We'll start off with a little commercial about NEC. A lot who have been through my trainings have seen this before. We're a consistent global market share leader in the SMB telephony market. We're pretty much number one consistently globally in market share. In North America, depending on how you spin the numbers, we'll run anywhere from number one to number three. A lot of people by size in North America. But we are a leader in telephony. You'll see we place a heavy investment in technology. We spend more on R&D than most of our competitors have in sales budgets. Now, granted, admittedly, it takes us a while to come out with that technology, but we want to make sure that it works properly, and that we're not doing beta tests when we're trying to make sure we're not releasing product in beta test. We put our product through significant beta testing, and this SL2100 has through some pretty intense beta testing before release. As far as the SL line, we're a market value leader. We are consistently ranked, if not the lowest, among the lowest manufacturers that have the lowest total cost of ownership. We have sales support, technical support. You'll see, especially now with the 2100, we've kind of reduced the number of SKUs as well as the number of licenses for the system. So we're trying to make it easier for the configuration and the installation, as well as the programming. And we've changed some things up in both the installation process and the programming that I think people will really be excited about. Still have the 5-year warranty, and we're still going to run programs and promotions around the 100 like we did with the SL1100. All right, so commercial over. Let's go into the product. As you see, the SL2100 is going to be the next logical step in the development of the SL1100 line, or the SL line. And so what we're going to talk about now for the next little while, we'll talk about how we're going to position the product in the marketplace. and position the product in the marketplace. We'll take a look at the hardware. Right, look at some of the optional equipment, which none of that has changed. We'll talk about features and applications. Primarily, we're going to talk in terms of what's new. It's different from the SL1100. We'll look at the packages and kits, and the support. Just as a precursor, we've launched a lot of the support. This is this week for the 2100. Okay. As far as product positioning goes, here's a picture of the newly redesigned cabinet. And we'll talk more about how we redesigned the cabinet in an upcoming slide. This is now scalable to 256 ports, 128 lines, 108 stations. It's still a converged or a hybrid system, but if you've missed this, you may have noticed a subtle change that I've made with this bullet point, in that I list it as a voice over IP solution and then TDM system. One of the comparisons I like to give with the 1100 versus the 2100, the 100 is at its core a digital key telephone system that can do some voice over IP applications. The 2100 is going to be more of an IP-based solution. It's not entirely true, but it's set up to do more IP than it is TDM or digital key telephone. All right. So we're still a hybrid solution, but you'll see that of the changes we've made with the 2100 are geared more towards the voice over IP market. All right. Including, we're going to have a more, or the 2100 will have a more robust voice over IP offering. A higher capacity with T1 and PRI. You'll see that in an upcoming slide. 5-year warranty, phone still fully featured, full duplex speakerphone, backlit display. And then we still have the UC applications. A lot has changed with those, although we have increased the number of ACD groups. We have changed up desktop suite. It's now being called NUC. And we have increased the capacity for networking. So let's, at a glance, kind of take a look at what's new about the 2100. First off, the KSU design. I put out a little bit in that previous slide. This is now more of a slot-in design. This now looks like networking gear. Right? You do not have to remove the cover of the chassis anymore, and we're calling it a chassis. And you are now, instead of using expansion cards, although we're still kind of using that terminology, you'll see they're more like blades. So we're into, getting into that realm. So the blades go into the slot, and that's how you expand the system. No longer are you stacking cards on top of one another. All right, and you'll see that more as we get into the presentation. We've added some built-in features to the system, right? Built into the CPU now is a 4-port 2-hour voicemail. Built in. So the compact flash card is gone. We have some smaller SD cards that are used to expand. There is, built into the CPU is a 4-port 2-hour voicemail, and this is expandable. Built into the CPU is 8 voice over IP ports. So the system is voice over IP ready out of the box. 8 built-in voice over IP ports. All right. You still have the ability to do up to 6 door box ports or 6 door boxes on the system, but the big change with the 2100 is now that can all be done out of one KSU, one chassis. If I had to do more than a couple of door phones on the SL1100, you know, for instance, say you needed 5 door phones on the SL1100, that meant you had to have a main KSU and 2 additional expansion KSUs in order to accommodate those door phones. Now, if you need to do up to 6 door phones, that could all be done out of one chassis or one KSU. With the external paging, I can now up to 3 external page zones out of one KSU. PRI is now a daughter board, right? So it does not take up a slot in a cabinet anymore. It's like other trunk cards. It's a daughter board and resides on top of a station card. Right? And for me, this one's a big one. That's why I kind of highlighted it and bolded it and italicized it. This is something that the field has been asking for the last 5 years. Is now truly rack mountable. We have an optional rack mount shelf available for the system. I have a picture of the system coming up that shows it rack mounted. We've had this shelf fabricated to fit specifically our KSU. So it's not a generic shelf. The KSU kind of rests on there and almost locks into shelf and mounted on a rack. Really cool. Again, this will have a great appeal to your IT guys out there that you talk to about phone systems. Some new feature enhancements. CPU auto update. You can now, if you put the CPU or chassis on a network, you can set it up so that the system can buy out once a month, go out to NEC website, load new system firmware. As new system firmware, it will automatically download into the system and upgrade the system. And have that scheduled to happen in the middle of the night. Right? As I mentioned, and we have we've increased the number of the AC capability on the system up to, I think, 8 AD groups with 128 total agents. Now making the call center a realistic opportunity for the SL2100. Here's another one that I've highlighted. One is in programming. And before I get into this one, I should mention, for those of you familiar with the SL1100 programming, nothing's changed. All right? We have changed the programming codes. All right? All the codes remain the same from the SL1100 to the 2100. Obviously, for some newer features, there's some additional pro codes that we've built in, but not changed the programming codes from the SL1100 to the 2100. So utilize PC Pro, the advanced field in PC Pro will remain the same. All right. So nothing has changed from the programming standpoint there. What changed is we added this PC Pro Easy Edit view. We got rid of the basic in PC Pro, and we've added this PC Pro Easy Edit view. Basically, what this PC Pro Easy Edit view, it consists of 2 main functions, or 2 main sections, and I always forget what they're officially called, but the first one is, I think, an easy initialization or initial install. I believe it's called initial install. So you have a system that you have reinitialized so that you have a blank slate Easy Edit view allows you to quickly go through and set up your lines and your line groups and basic functionality that way. We have another section called Quick Install. And what Quick Install is it's a very logical grouping of different programming groups. So you can go in and program, when you click on stations, all of the programming, and I mean all of the programming associated with programming station shows up. Same with voicemail and things like that. It's a more logical grouping of programming, so that you can go through and quickly program up a basic system relatively simply and relatively quickly. We when we were down in Dallas for the account manager training and product management showed us this, we actually timed ourselves with setting up a little S2100 4x8 system, with day and nighttime greeting, included putting names on the extensions and all that. It took us about 20 minutes to do that. So this PC Pro Easy Edit view is going to help greatly reduce the time of programming. Right? No time is money. So PC Pro Easy Edit view, you guys are going to like this. One of the first videos that I see that got posted up on the NEC website with relation to the SL2100 is a training video that takes you through the PC Pro Easy Edit view. And I am working on, hopefully, my next 8 weeks are going to be really busy, but I'm hopeful that in my limited spare time, I'm going to develop a webinar to take you through the PC Pro Easy Edit view. All right. The other change to programming comes to WebPro, or involves WebPro. Before I get into what the big change is with WebPro, a lot of you who did the SL1100 found it was easier to basically program up the system using WebPro. And WebPro is our web-based GUI interface for me. And they just found it was easier and quicker to program with WebPro. The problem with WebPro on the 1100, it was a savable database. All right, you make all your programming changes, save it to the KSU, but if you wanted to save the database to your computer, you have to log out of WebPro, log into the system with PC Pro, and then download and save your database. Right, a few extra steps. With WebPro for the 2100 is we made the WebPro now a savable database. You can log on to the system, program with WebPro, log on to the system with WebPro, do your programming. If somebody needs to mute their phone, please. I can't know who that is, but please, be mindful of the background noise. You can log on with WebPro, make your programming changes, upload it to the system, and now you have the ability of saving that to your laptop computer. Basically what happens, you still need to have PC Pro running on your laptop computer. What happens when you're in WebPro and you click Save, it opens up PC Pro and automatically transfers the information in in the PC Pro, and then you can save that to your database. So you're not logging off and relogging on. It's just you save out of WebPro, opens PC Pro, saves the information, saves it to your desktop. Okay. NEC is our new version of Desktop Suite. I was told initially that wasn't going to be out until release 2, but I see it on the current price list, so I have to get a ruling to make sure that NEC is available. And in fact, I'm going to be on a webinar later on today covering NEC for us, for the account managers. And then Lua apps will be coming in release 2. I forget what Lua, L-U-A, actually stands for, but what this is going to do is going to allow us to integrate with a lot more third-party applications out there. Primarily, the first one that is coming up off the top of my head is with the use of these Lua apps in the system, we'll be able to integrate with property management software for hotels and motels. All right. So that's the type of thing you can expect to see when we add the Lua apps to the system, and again, that's coming in version 2. Capacity. Mainly the capacity changes have to do with voice over IP. See here right off the hop, we now have a maximum number of voice over IP resources in the system of 128. Double we had on the 1100. Those of you who go back with me to the DSX days, that's quadruple what we had on the DSX. No, more than that, more than quadruple. I think that's 8 times the amount of what we had on the DSX. So 128 total resources are now available to the system, and you build that through adding licenses. Okay. Off of those 128 resources, I'd have a maximum of 112 voice over IP extensions. I also run a maximum of 64 SIP trunks off of that. So the SL2100 is now, you see, is kind of set up so that it can be, if you need it to be a standalone voice over IP system or an exclusive voice over IP system, guess what? The capability is there now. The example that I've been given in my in these webinars all week is if the SL1100, if somebody needed 20 or 24 SIP trunks and 70 voice over IP phones, the SL1100 would be able to do that. Right? There wasn't enough resources available in the system to do that. Now, if somebody needs with the 2100, if somebody needs 20 SIP trunks and wants to run 70 IP extensions, we do that. All right. And what's the benefit of that? Because I know I've spent the last several years telling you guys, unless they're doing remote users or networking systems together, and, some of the other reasons for doing voice over IP. And what would be the benefit of doing voice over IP extensions on the system now is that you can do it in one cabinet. If you needed 70 digital stations, would involve at least 2 additional cabinets on the system. Right. With 70 voice over IP stations, you can do that all out of the main KSU or the main chassis. You don't need to do additional cabinets. Now that's another reason to save rack space or to save wall space. You run some extensions off of one cabinet, provided that they're all, they're all voice over IP extensions. Makes the other increased capacity is the number of LNet modes or you can do on the system. And I have to figure out a way to creatively change this verbiage. Look, we do up to 50 SLNet nodes on a system, which technically means in network 50 locations, SL2100. That's really not a realistic action because we're still limited to the total number of ports being 256 ports. But with the SL1100, the most I could put in any network is 5. All right. NEC can do considerably more than 5 with the 2100. If somebody needs 10 locations, your problem. 15, 20, heck, even 25 locations, depending on the size of the locations, we're able to network to go together via SLNet. All right. So increased network capacity has changed on the 2100. And then, as I mentioned, the ACD groups. ACD groups, 128 agents. Okay. Terminals. And most of the areas in this section is really, I'm talking about the new voice over IP terminal for the SL2100. Right. With the new terminal, we're going back to large screen. Right. It is actually, as I counted up correctly, it's got 11 lines on it. So I think 24 characters. But basically, it's got 8 programmable buttons on it, and these keys are self-labeling. By the way, you don't need a DESI label for our new P phone, right? And then you have a scroll button that you can scroll through your pages, so you can have up to 4 pages of programmable buttons. The IP terminal. All right. The other big change with the IP terminal is it supports gigabit connections. All right, so it is now a gigabit Ethernet switch. You will see on all our phones we've changed the design a little bit to go with a more rounded edge. Another change in terminals is the SL2100 will support SL1100 phones and voice over IP. All right. So if somebody needs, on an SL1100, needs increase, especially on the voice over IP side, you can switch out the SC, still use their SL1100 phones on the system. So that's kind of the big changes in the terminals. All right. Again, we're showing the capacity, and I touched on this just a little bit when talking about increased voice over IP capacity. When doing, digital phones with analog, you're still looking at basically 12 lines by 24 extensions for each one of these cabinets. All right. Initially, on release 1, you add 2 additional cabinets to the system. With release 2, you'll be able to add a 4th cabinet, and that'll be connected up via voice over IP. So, and it's still the same where we can run analog, digital, or voice over IP trunks, and we can run IP phones, digital phones, single line sets. It's a true hybrid solution. It is, you see, this can be either wall mountable, and I'll show you here in a minute that it's also rack mountable. All right, and built voicemail for 2 hours, built-in voice over IP channels. All right, and we can support a maximum of 128 voice over IP channels now on the system. Okay. Again, benefits of the way we're doing voice over IP now on the SL2100. More over IP resources are available, which gives you the ability, and we've already talked about this, to do the SL2100 as a pure IP solution. All right. Benefit with it being a pure IP solution, you now compete with hosted with this system. You can give them a on-premise solution that will probably have more features than the hosted. Everything be a voice over IP, and through the use of leasing, and I'm getting ahead of myself, you can offer that to them at their low monthly payment. All right. So the fact that we've increased the voice over IP channels and the system gives you the ability to compete more, especially when going up against hosted. For those IT guys that are not, as we know, more and more IT managers are getting involved in the process of selecting phone systems. Now, with the fact that we can do a pure IP solution, this will appeal to those guys as well. All right? I've been doing this all week, so my throat has been a little hinky. This is the main KSU, or the main chassis. We've actually put this together in a kit. All right? There's the part number of the key for this quote-unquote kit. It's initially configured with no lines, no stations on it, a rack or wall mountable design, and you can see this is a horizontal view if you were to put it in a rack, and there's the what it would look like mounted on a wall. All right, built-in 4-port voicemail, 2 hours of storage time, 8 voice over IP resources, LAN port for PC programming. There's your expansion slots where you would put your cards or your blades, and the ability to add the additional cabinets. All right, this main KSU kit comes with a CPU card. All right, and the CPU card is what gives you these features. Yeah. And there you can buy just a blank chassis with no CPU card in it. There's a reason, because it's now the same chassis that access the main KSU or expansion KSUs, and it depends what blade or what card you put in this first slot here, or first opening. You know, whether a CPU card or an expansion card. All right. The design of the chassis has some new benefits. You can add components without having to open the chassis, so you no longer have to get your pull cover off to add cards. It's all done from the front of the system, and it's a slot-in design. All right, we're no longer stacking cards on top of one another. Right. Makes it easier to maintain. And we've been talking about, I talked about how, feel it's big that we now do rack mounting. This is a picture from one of our that was involved in the field trial, and this was actually out east, and they sent a picture that we can use for our presentations to show the SL2100 rack mounted. I mean, you can hardly tell that that's really sitting in a shelf. All right, first off, there are little like tabs and modules on the shelf that actually interface with the mount section on the chassis that help keep the chassis stable while it's on the shelf. All right. So what we're looking at here is up here is the main KSU with the CPU card installed and the expansion cards or blades installed. And then this is the extension chassis or expansion KSU. And you see we have a different card mounted into the section where the CPU would go, and we'll talk about those cards in a minute. And then your expansion cards or blades. Go ahead. So this is now a true rack mountable system. The only caveat to this with the rack mounting, and this is true too when mounting in a wall, you have to keep space. This is a fanless design. This KSU does not have a fan in it, so it requires natural airflow to cool cabinet. There needs to be at least one RU space between cabinets on the rack or between the chassis on the rack to ensure that both above and below, to ensure that the airflow will keep the system cool. All right? But you see this, again, I can't tell you how excited I was to see that we can now mount this system on a rack. And oh, by the way, yes, the shelf has been custom made for us and fabricated to fit the SL2100 system. does not come, the shelf does not come with a customized price. The shelf, I believe, is $45. Right? So it's relatively inexpensive for the shelf. Right? Here's the CPU card, and that goes into that first area on the cabinet, right on the chassis, I should say. I got to use that. All right. Built-in Ethernet port. All right, 4-port to our voicemail, 8 voice over IP ports that come out of the Ethernet port, your LED status lights. There is also an optional voice over IP daughter board and an optional expansion daughter board. We'll talk about those in the upcoming slide. Actually, you can see this is actually a voice over IP daughter board installed on top of the CPU, so that's why we have the voice over IP daughter board Ethernet port open up here. All right, that's your CPU card that goes in right here, cabinet. Voice over IP daughter board. You may be thinking, or you may not be thinking, Mike, you said there's 8 voice over IP ports built in. Why are we still dealing with the voice over IP daughter board? So IP daughter board is needed for expansion. Okay, so the voice over IP daughter board adds an 8 additional voice over IP ports, so it gets you up to 16. Basically, what it is there's 16 voice over IP channels go into this, and it overrides what's on the CPU when installed. All right, and then the memory on this voice over IP daughter board is where the licenses go when you expand. And you can expand the card in 16 chain increments or 16 resource increments. All right. The first level of expansion is you go from 8 to 16 with the use of this voice over IP daughter board, and then you build off of that in 16 port increments till ultimately you get to 128 voice over IP ports.
Hey, Paul. Mike?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is Paul. I got a question for you.
If you're subnetting your traffic, your data traffic, and you got like a 10100 switch, and you basically want your voice over IP extent be on certain ports, everything. Are you going to plug that into those port to your switch? Because it's like you think that's going to actually go one way, and then your voice over IP phones are going to go another way?
No, Ethernet. When you install the voice over IP daughter board, Ethernet port on the system becomes inactive. Active Ethernet port is your voice over IP daughter board.
Okay, so that's going to go out to your switch then. Okay.
Correct. And then we'll port again SIP trunks, voice over IP telephones, SLNet, as well as mobility. All right. We're still calling this a digital station card. Got to get used to it because it's now a combo station card. It's a combination card. The card will do 8 digital stations. It will also do 2 analog stations or 2 door boxes. Okay. You have your 8 digital ports and then plus your 2 analogs. There's also the relay ports on there to work your door box. There's also 1 audio input and audio output. On top of it is your connector for your trunk cards, be they a analog trunk or a PRI card. All right, maximum of 3 of these per cabinet. All right, gets us up to our 24 stations. And these are, even though I'm calling this a digital station card, so 2 analog ports in it as well. Some other hardware components, we do have an analog station card. Well, it gives us 8, it will support up to 8 analog stations in a card. I still give you your one trunk connector as well. We have our no expansion card. This is for those times when you have more station cards than you do, or I'm sorry, more trunk cards than you do station cards. Because remember, our trunk cards are daughter boards, right? And they will reside, you know, you need a station card to reside on. Now, there may be times when you have more than to put in more trunk cards than you do have available station cards. That's where you use the zero expansion card. Put your trunk card in, you slide it into the slot of the cabinet. T1 PRI card is now a daughter board. We can do multiple. We can now add an additional PRI to the system. So now I could run 3 PRI channels on the system. So I could have up to 3 PRI cards per system, 1 per cabinet. All right. Again, it's a daughter board, so it mounts onto a station card. There's no expansion card. We have our analog trunk card. In the analog trunk card is now a 3-port analog trunk card. All right. So we add our analog trunks in increments of 3. So that's that's the other difference in the cards with the SL2100. Again, our daughter boards require either a station card or the zero expansion card to mount into the system. Okay. Then we have 2 expansion cards, and these are used when you add expansion cabinets to the system or chassis. The first one up here, this is the expansion card that goes into the main cabinet. So this is the CPU here. It actually mounts underneath on the card, and then these 2 ports will go up here, these knockouts, for expansion 1 and expansion 2. All right. So this is the card for the main KSU or the main chassis. Then we have an expansion card for the expansion cabinet. And it's designed to receive the signal from the main KSU. So this would install in that same area of the cabinet where you would normally put a CPU card. In an expansion cabinet, you wouldn't put a CPU card in, you put this expansion cabinet card in. Right? You would connect via these ports. So I think of it, I'm a baseball guy. This is the pitcher, and this is the catcher. So this one throws the signal, and this receives the signal.
Excuse me.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm looking at your CPUs and your expansion, and you said revision 2 would give us 3 cabinets. So where will we put that additional expansion plug on a CPU that only has 3?
It'll be connected via voice over IP.
Cabinet. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So that's why there's only 2 ports on there. The third cabinet is done through voice over IP. All right. So this is a kind of a drawing of the chassis, and apologize. I'm going to have product management because they're using all NEC part numbers instead of the product part numbers here. So basically what this is this shows how the cabinet gets laid out. Here in this area cabinet or slot where you put the CPU card or expansion card. Then you have your expansion slots 1, 2, 3, and 4. And these are the cards that can go into each one of the slots on the cabinet. Basically, your first 3 slots on the cabinet can take either a digital card or what we call the multi-line station card. It can take the analog station card, or it can take the null card with a zero expansion card. Up there. Slot 4 in the cabinet will not support multi-line telephones. Slot in the cabinet is simply there for single-line telephone, or the additional or the blank card, so that you can add your 4th and trunk card there. So basically, again, we're still looking at a 12 by 24 analogs in each cabinet. But each cabinet, the maximum number of digital phones you could have in each cabinet is 24. It'd actually be 24 digital, 6 analog, and then if you put the 8 analog card in, they're looking at 24 digital plus 14 analog. But the main thing on here is if you try and stick one of those 4 digital station cards in slot 4, it's not going to work. As I mentioned, 4-port 2-hour email is built into the system. It's expandable. You can first off expand the storage through the use of our SD cards. And I have a picture of generic SD cards. I don't have product image yet of our expansion SD cards for the email. Okay? And you can expand the storage to either 15 hours or 120 hours. 20 hours, I know, seems like a lot, but remember, we can, with the increased capacity for networking, that increased storage becomes important. Thing too about this 20-hour storage. I get calls all the time about people wanting to record conversations, but don't want to invest in expensive recording devices. Recording devices can get to be, or recording systems for telephone systems can get to be expensive. We still are going to offer the digital call logger and the VoIP call logger, but you're looking at about $400 per user, your cost, to give recording capability. The fact that we have a storage card now that'll hold 120 hours, the conversation record feature on the system a little more viable. All right, and you're not going to automatically record calls, but for legal office, accounting office that needs to record an occasional conversation, doesn't need to record every conversation, but needs to record the occasional conversation that, they're comfortable having the user initiate that conversation record. You can install this large extension card into their system, and now at 120 hours, that's them a lot of time for recording. Record their conversations. I would still recommend using the email integration so that recording can get emailed out in a file and stored on a server somewhere. But now for somebody who doesn't want to invest, they see where they need to record some conversations, but they don't want to invest in a recording system. Use this large SD card, give them the 120 storage hours on the voicemail, and let them go ahead and record conversations. Right? So there is some, even though 120 hours is a huge amount of recording time, there are some different uses for that. Primary one is conversation record. And then, that expansion bus card that I showed you that goes in the main KSU or the main chassis to expand the cabinet, it also has a couple of other functions to it. They pertain with voicemail. The expansion bus card that I showed you will expand the voicemail to 16 ports. All right, so we are no longer offering our 2-port in expansion license. You have two choices now on the 2100. You could have a 4-port voicemail, or you can have a 16-port voicemail. This expansion bus card also adds cascade notification and find me, follow me to the voicemail, which means the email integration license is just for that. It's for email integration. Does notification, sends out the WAV file, call the information in the subject line. So now if they want to do email integration, that's what the license is for. All right. 6-day free trial license is still available in the system, but we're to the point now. I mean, if somebody calls me up to quote out a system, I'm going to automatically include the email integration license, because this feature that we should be selling with just about every system that goes out, because that's what the hosted people are doing. All right. So that's our features on the InMail. Terminals. Here's what the new terminals look like. All right, with a kind of a sleeker design. It's now a black DESI label for the digital phones. So it really gives it a nice, handsome look to the phones. We still have your LED up at the top. That's red, green, or orange, depending on the function. Your soft keys, programmable buttons. We still are offering 12, 24 button buttons. All right. Split display. For your 4 fixed function keys, your menu cursor keys, speaker and hold button, and then your adjustable legs in the back, and this does have a built-in wall mount. Here's a view of the phone. It shows a close-up of the fixed function keys and LEDs and the speaker and hold button, as well as your menu cursor keys, and that these keys also have a couple of other functions: directory, incoming call history, real history. All right. So our full function phones.
On again. Question on that digital telephone set. Is it similar to the SL1100 that has a backlit display and a lighted keypad?
Not have a lighted keypad, just a backlit display.
The keypad light has gone away then, right?
The kit has gone away.
All right. Thank you.
Yes. Mm-hmm. This is our new voice over IP phone. So we've got a larger display on it, your programmable buttons here, and then a scroll button to scroll through your pages. All right, and then you still have your 3-line display down here with your soft keys, and then all of the same 6 feature keys, as well as your speaker and hold button. Although it looks like we have a menu button and a callback. What that is on the next page. Looks like we added a couple of feature keys to this. Your adjustable, 2-position stand on the back will require, if you're going to mount this on the wall, you will be required to use a wall mount bracket, because you need a standoff for the gentle bend radius of the Ethernet. And my favorite feature that's part of this IP telephone, that is a self-labeling telephone. In other words, a DESI-less phone. We still have the clear plastic that can be removed. And if you want, you can change the DESI label, even though there's no need to change the DESI label. Just a little quirk with the. Here's, again, a close-up of the display. 8 programmable buttons. That really 32 when you utilize the scroll feature. All right. And here is a kind of a close-up. Clear and back and menu button. And actually, those are on the digital phones as well. and it is a gigabit Ethernet phone. Here's a chart showing the terminals, both SL1100 and SL2100 terminals. And I'll go right down to the bottom here to this little purple or fuchsia section that shows the SL2100 and shows what's compatible, what phones are compatible. And you see we got yeses here. So the SL1100 terminals, both digital and IP, will work with the 2100. All right, and then obviously the 2100 terminals will work the SL2100. So the SL1100 goes, that's all the SL1100 phones. S2100 digital phones will not work on the 1100. However, the SL2100 IP phone will work on the SL1100. However, I was a couple of caveats with this that I wasn't aware of until we went down for training. The SL2100 IP phone will work on the 1100 one release version 7 software. We're a couple weeks away from version 7 coming out on the SL1100. Also, this phone will not be a gigabit phone on the SL1100. It will only be a 10100. Okay, and it will not. The scroll key will not work when you use this with the SL1100. So it will be just purely an 8-button iPhone. Okay. The power for IP terminal right now is by PoE only. So you have to have a PoE switch. We're working on getting a PoE adapter for that for your one-off applications. Right now, the only way to power the SL2100 IP phone is via power over Ethernet switch. All right. So for the first time ever, our phones are forward compatible. The SL2100, and once release 7 is out there for the SL1100, you'll be able to use this phone on SL1100. So we're going to offer, again, a 60-button console, maximum of 12 per station, 12 per system. We'll take up a digital station port. Our analog door box has not changed. It's an analog door box that we've been using for the last 12 or 14 years. All right. Wireless headset adapters have changed a bit. We have a new wireless headset adapter for the digital phones. However, the wireless headset adapter will not work on the iPhone. That's a separate cable that's used for the voice over IP phone. We will be selling this cable. That cable will only be sold by Plantronics. Okay? So you have to go through Plantronics to get the wireless headset adapter for our IP phones. And there's a voice over IP, or there's our wall mount for the voice over IP phones. Features and applications. Again, a lot of this will be repeated now, but again, I want to make sure we point this out. Some standard 2100 features, 4-port voicemail built in, will be a 15-hour voicemail in the starter kits, and we'll talk about the packages here coming up. In the packages, and we're going to have 2 packages that will include phones. In those packages will be the expansion card to take it up to a 15-hour voicemail. Voice over IP resources built in.